Welcome to Free to Cook. In this episode we're going to be cooking Shakshouka, which is a baked/poached eggs with a rich tomato sauce. I'm going to add chorizo, which definitely isn't traditional, but it adds another level of flavour that I really enjoy. If you were to leave out the chorizo, this would make a great vegetarian breakfast. I'm going to cook this in a cast iron pan on the Weber. You can also cook this recipe in the kitchen using a stovetop and an oven. To start off with, light a chimney of charcoal. I'm using clean heat charcoal. It burns hot and it burns a really long time. Once the charcoal is lit, pour it into one side of the Weber. This will give us a section for direct cooking and indirect cooking for later on. For the prep, you'll need to skin and finely dice one whole onion. Next, finely chop one red pepper. This one doesn't need any heat. Then slice 2 sausages of chorizo on an angle and then in half. I like to use hot chorizo, but if you don't like the heat, you can use a mild one. Heat a nice solid cast iron pan over the coals before adding a small amount of olive oil. Add the onions to the pan and begin to cook them through. Once they begin to become translucent, add the chopped red peppers. Cook the peppers until they begin to soften. To the pan, add your chorizo. You can leave this one out to make it a vegetarian dish. You want to brown off the chorizo because it will begin to release all its flavour. Next, you want to add your spices. I'm using G-Fresh's fantastic range of spices. The main reason for adding your spices before the liquid is because you want them to fry off in the oil. This will help them to pack a stronger punch. Add 1 tablespoon of paprika, then a tablespoon of cumin seeds. You can also use ground cumin. Season with salt and pepper. Cook the spices through for a couple of minutes. Then add 1 tin of crushed tomatoes. I know there's a lot of talk about not cooking a tomato dish in a cast iron pan because of the acidity. If your pan is well seasoned and you wash it after cooking, you won't have a problem. I also like to add a splash of water because those tomatoes are going to reduce down and you don't want them to burn. Bring that tomato sauce to the simmer and cook for 10 to 15 minutes or until it begins to thicken up. Once it's thickened up a little, move it off the heat. It's already looking great, but there's one more key ingredient to add. Using a spoon, roughly make 4 wells for your eggs to sit in. I like to crack my eggs into a small bowl before tipping them in. This helps in case there's a small piece of shell or, God forbid, a rotten egg. You don't want to completely ruin your hard work. Pour the eggs into the wells that you've created. I find 5 eggs work perfectly for a pan about this size. Then cover with a lid and cook through for 10 to 15 minutes until the eggs are fully cooked the way you like them. If we're cooking this in the kitchen, you'd place this in the oven at a temperature of 550 Fahrenheit, that's 180 Celsius. About halfway through, turn the pan around so the eggs evenly cook. This is also the perfect time to start toasting some bread. You want to undercook the eggs, then overcook them because they will continue to cook after the pan is removed from the heat. These eggs are looking perfect. Remove the pan from the Weber or your oven. To finish it off, sprinkle over some fresh parsley. Finally, crumb some feta over the dish. There you have it, Shakshouka baked eggs with chorizo, topped off with a rich tomato sauce. This is a fantastic weekend breakfast to share with family and friends. I added chorizo, which isn't a traditional part of the recipe, but it adds another layer of flavour. But if you leave it out, you'll have a great vegetarian breakfast as well. If you found this recipe helpful, don't forget to share it, subscribe to the channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and if you have any recipe suggestions, leave them in the comments.